Russia blames the F-16 crash in the USA. So we were talking about the unfortunate loss of Moonfish and the kind of another article that surfaced today. The Russian ambassador, which is obviously, someone that we trust, sarcasm for the people at home. Holy crap. People never get sarcasm when I'm sarcastic. He made some comments about the death of the Ukrainian pilot as if that, the trash talking in the war wasn't enough. He basically said that U.S. instructors have failed to train Ukrainian pilots on F-16 fighter jets, as quoted in the report by TASS, a state-run Russian news agency. Local instructors have failed to train the Ukrainians. I can imagine how they would shout if reports came that the hapless plane was brought down by our soldiers. A spokesperson for the Ukraine Defense Ministry told Newsweek, as for Russians, they always lie. The information world continues. Yes, of course. He fired or he dismissed the head of the Air Force, but a Ukrainian lawmaker, and this is what I was talking about earlier, said it was mistakenly down by a U.S.-provided Patriot missile battery, accused Air Force High Command of a culture of lies, but they dismissed those claims and said that's nonsense. So an investigation is ongoing, obviously, and we're collaborating with the United States on that. So we'll see if they send in somebody else. They only have 6. Now they have 5, and he was trained in Denmark. So training had been condensed and flying the aircraft was more technically challenging, is what he had said previously in an article. And that's it. So Gonky, I kind of wanted to over to you on this. You ever trained? Did you guys do any foreign training at the RAG, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, like Australians.
No, because like Tucson, some of these pilots were trained at Tucson. There's a whole international B course specifically for training countries where we sell them aircraft and we need to train them. You ever do anything like that, or just was exchange stuff?
Other than exchange stuff, no. I mean, I the Aussies bought the Hornet, right? The Super Hornet. They came over and trained with us, but they're just like us.
But you did it in Malaysia,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I guess my point is there's a syllabus,
yep.
And I think it's kind of a I get why he's doing it, because when you're at war, you're going to say nonsense like this, and everybody's going to say stupid things like this because, well, look at this. This is the U.S. meddling, and they didn't even do it right, and we're going to talk trash. And I'm sure the commenters are about to tell me about it all too when this becomes a clip. But it's nonsense, because even the best training in the world, the Swiss cheese lines up, and something like this happens.
Yeah. 100%. And the other thing that people probably don't realize is not only are they getting, we'll just call it a Ukrainian spec Viper, but just like in Malaysia, the syllabus is for them as well. Yeah. So like in the Hornet, the Malaysian syllabus was relatively similar to ours in the US. So I don't know what the exact syllabus that the Ukrainians are using right now, but when you look at, I don't know, it's we're looking at it from a Western point of view. I don't really, as far as F-16 pilots and capabilities and whatnot, and how much actual training, it's hard for me to realize or to accept the fact that like he had sufficient training to be doing actual combat ops like he is. I get it. They're in war. They need to do what they're going to do. But dude, if you're going to take guys and put them through a pretty aggressive course in a high performance airplane like a Viper, and then send them right out to war out the gate, I mean, there's no time for those guys to gain any experience, right? I mean, your experience is gained in the training, right? In the red flags, the LFEs, all that stuff. That's where you make all your mistakes. It's like you would have died here. Right. So when you actually do go to combat, you don't make those mistakes. These guys are experienced pilots, but not in this weapon system. Right.
How long was their training? 6 months?
Dude, it's not much. Yeah. It's not,
well, I mean, that's what I got. I went to a B course, and my first non-graded ride was, OIF.
Yeah. But it wasn't against the Russians.
Well, that's true. But
that's what I'm saying.
But he's not a student, right? So if I went through a TX course in Fat Amy, it'd be 4 months. and they could very easily, if World War III kicks off tomorrow against China, I could easily get through MQT and be in combat.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. There's been plenty of incidents where like guys who've transitioned to like the Hornet from other platforms.
I did that too.
Right. The transition goes smoothly, but then something will happen. Like the Top Gun guy that transitioned from all he'd flown was Super Hornets. Well, he transitioned to Legacy Hornet and went through the little syllabus that we had. And he was a Top Gun guy. Went out and during a fight didn't realize how quick the thing would roll, because it does roll a lot faster than the Super Hornet. You put on a bunch of G's, he locked himself, and he ended up punching out. So that's instances like that. You can be experienced, but like when it comes to, and you talked a little bit about it earlier about kind of like
law of primacy.
The fog of war, you go back to law of primacy, right? So there was a guy in my rad class who flew S3s. Was he in my rad class? A couple classes behind me or in front of me. I don't know. Anyways, he went out the boat. They did a port call. He's halfway through his fleet tour in the Hornet. They do a port call in Australia. They're just doing regular night quals, and he does an S3 power correction, and the Hornet hits the back of the ship. And it's just, when you're not focused, the law of primacy kicks in, and you kind of do what you were originally taught to do, and it might get you. So
not just that, Gonky. We don't even know what happened.
Correct.
We don't know. I mean, we talked about it earlier in the show about the different theories about whether it was a Patriot, which
you're dead.
What training would have done that, right? I mean, okay, my IFF, like I didn't set up my IFF correctly. I mean, maintenance didn't set up the IFF correctly, because that could be the other piece to that too. Was I not in the right deconfliction area because I wasn't interpreting, my display and my map, because maybe there's because there are engagement zones that you want to stay out of, and and that's part of it.
But I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about. There's a lot of new things that these guys are dealing with.
Oh, but if it's CFIT, right? Was it day or night? Nighttime threat reacting on goggles or off goggles, very, very hard to do in an F-16.
Well, what did he fly before the F-16?
MiG-29s.
Well, dude, the MiGs, our ADI is opposite to theirs.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's so I can see that too. One of the reports said that he shot down 2 or 3 cruise missiles and a drone or whatever. Those jets are that's hard to do by itself. Just to go out there and target those small things that are either moving fast or moving slow, low altitude, all that stuff, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
And so to your point, you would want experience, but to the rest of the world's point, they don't have time, right? They need jets, they need people. This is what they were working with, and this is, you have to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my whole point is, sadly, given the timeline these guys are faced with, I would expect higher than normal attrition. Maybe not. Yeah, I just having flown, these kind of airplanes, they're doing what they can with what they have. I get it 100%. I mean, I couldn't do any better, to be honest.
I'm surprised they're doing this much this soon.
That's what I'm saying. They're really pushing it up, and I would just expect, with really leaning this far forward, I mean, they're accepting a lot of risk, and this is, unfortunately, the result of that.
It goes back to the original point, right, that we made a year or two ago. The jet is not a magic weapon.
No.
Like, it is not a game changer. It is not, it boosts morale, yes, until something like this happens, unfortunately. It gives you capability, yes. But think about the Ukrainian Air Force. What has their equipment traditionally been? Russian.
Yeah.
Our stuff is not immediately compatible. You saw that in Malaysia, MiG-29 versus Hornet. Different tactics, different doctrine, different integration. I mean, you take a SAM operator that's been using an S300 or S400, which I can't believe I'm using those terms now because the internet has ruined me. Double-digit SAM. It's a SAM operator. Yeah, right. I used the Wikipedia one for it. What are you talking about? But a SAM operator that's used to Russian equipment moves to a Patriot. Now is integrating with MiGs, and then a Viper shows up. And it's not just, hey, it just works. There is a reason we do red flags. There is a reason we do these large force exercises. This is a reason we go to Fallon. There's a reason we train as much as we do, because it is not an overnight, it's just like when you take a country and go, bam, you're a democracy. No, you're not. You're not just overnight a democracy. A lot of stuff, mindsets have to change. I mean, when I went from the Air Force to the Navy, it was like a whole different world, and that's within the same country.
Right. Well, dude, and the airplane is just one piece. Like, the airplane itself is not going to win the war, right? So, like, it takes a coordinated effort. Like you said, it's part of a layered offense or defense. I mean, every piece of equipment plays the part, and there's just a whole lot of like new and different stuff going on. And I like I said, this aggressive use of Western equipment to a country that hasn't been using that equipment very long. Unfortunately, I would expect things like this to happen. Which,
but you also you have to understand where they're coming from, which is, if we don't, I saw the thing where if Russia quits fighting, the war's over. If Ukraine stops fighting, Ukraine is now Russia. So the stakes are different for which side you're talking about. So from their perspective, we want to throw everything we can at the problem. And I do see the sense that, hey, if we get F-16, suddenly it's going to change the war, because that's what you want to believe. I would want to believe that. If I were fighting for my existence or fighting, for my country, and another country were like, hey, we got these jets, they're kind of old, but they're better than what you had, and they might change the tide. I'd be, hell yeah, let's get them in the front lines as soon as we can, and kind of buy in the press, because how long did they talk this up before they even got the 6 jets?
A while.
We've been talking about this for 2 years. And so at some point, you believe your own press, and you go, well, we needed this. Now we're going to throw them in, and they're going to change everything. And if that night they had gotten a success rate and didn't lose a jet, we'd be having a different conversation, because they'd have been saying, see, send us more. We need these. It's changing the tide. We're kicking their asses. And that's the unfortunate part of war, is that in the 21st century, we are not used to losses. We are not used to losing airplanes and stuff like that from the Western side. So as soon as we hear it, we're like, oh God, but to your point, that's, I mean, when you push it up, that's what happens.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, thoughts and prayers to his family. I mean, like I said before, dude, there's people on both sides that are dying, in my opinion, for no reason, but
Yep. All right.